On January 9th, 2021, I prayed and asked God to clean everything out of my heart, and what He revealed flipped my world upside down and sent me to rock bottom. But first, I need to rewind the tape and explain how I got here. This is my story of how I lost my innocence as a child, survived sexual, physical, verbal, mental, and spiritual abuse, developed complex PTSD, lost my creative self, deconstructed my Christian faith, and ultimately found healing, my voice, and a true transformational relationship with Jesus.
This is the story of Innocence Lost, a song, a life, and a journey of healing.
I was raised in a seemingly normal Christian home. I went to church nearly every Sunday for 20 years. We were fundamentalist, landmark Baptist Christians, a large homeschooling family, had our own singing ministry. My sisters and I played instruments and sang all over the state of Indiana for over 16 years, and they continued singing and having the band even after I got married. And we believed we were true Christians and served the Lord. While some of that was true, we did make an impact with our music. We recorded an album, and which Reagan was a key part of that. He's the reason it exists. There were secrets shrouded underneath this perfect family facade. Years of repeated rape and molestation by a number of relatives. I know this is really dark. Physical abuse, raised in a cult, and in a toxic culture of narcissism and an enmeshed family. And it wasn't until I was married to Reagan that I understood the full consequences of how I was raised. So you could say it's his fault. What is complex PTSD? Because some people may not know what that is and how serious it can be. You could struggle with this yourself and not even know it. So FHEhealth.com says that C-PTSD occurs when someone is dealt with long-term trauma. This means the trauma covered repeated events or happened over a long period of time. Child sexual or physical abuse, which can go on for years, is another example of complex trauma that could result in C-PTSD. Typically, the events that lead to complex PTSD involve either actual or metaphorical captivity. The victim is under control of another and is unable to easily escape the situation. Any type of long-term trauma can lead to C-PTSD, but this type of anxiety seems most likely to develop in those who are abused by a caregiver or someone who should have protected them. This includes people who are survivors of ongoing physical, verbal, emotional, or sexual abuse by a family member. And that is exactly what happened to me. Now, I had locked away most of this, and I did not realize the full extent of just how bad it was until, like I said, I was, got married and out of the environment and started sharing stories from my childhood with Reagan. And like every single time there was just this utter horror, different ways we were disciplined or just different scenarios of things that had happened. And he was just completely horrified and would say that should not have happened. That's not right. There's something wrong there. And he suspected that there was something wrong, and he would frequently say, not frequently, but every now and then he would say, how are you not more messed up? And it was in a loving way. He's like, I know you're special, but these things that, typically happen to people, they tend to be more messed up. And in kind of a prideful way, I was just like, well, maybe I am just special and I just escaped. I was very naive and an idiot. As I began to feel safe, which is pretty common with people who suffer from CPTSD, they have to feel safe for an extended period of time before the destructive memories in childhood can come to the surface and be dealt with. And it was around 2020, the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, that everything started coming up and came to a head. And it was, I prayed and asked God to just reveal everything, whatever was in my heart, to come up and be dealt with. And very soon after, like within like 2 days of praying that, I began to suffer from horrendous flashbacks to the point where it was as though I was a little child again, and that was my mental state for some time. Like I would do childish things like wanting to hide under blankets, and at the time I was pregnant with our third child, and this just, seemed very silly. Like part of me was like, this is stupid, I'm hiding under a blanket, and yet that's where I felt safest. So while all this was transpiring, like Reagan and I have been trying to get our music band off the ground. We have been struggling to be creative, he's not been struggling to be creative. I've been struggling to be creative. And whenever we would get to a point where we would start something, it was as if, something else would come up new to me. When it all came to a head and I was reliving the memories my brain had suppressed, I was at my lowest. I was severely depressed, suicidal, contemplated taking my own life a couple of times, and felt as though I was in this dark, oppressive cloud and I couldn't get out. I suffered from severe anxiety, OCD rituals, and a constant state of stress. I was easily frightened, which Reagan was like, this doesn't seem right. Why are you easily scared? Constant nightmares, I wasn't getting much sleep, and just things were, hearing about my family, my family, siblings and all that, were enough to trigger me into a panic attack and an episode of just forgetting which decade I was in. I mean, for a period of time, I couldn't even have, my children or my husband touch me because I felt so unsafe to some extent, and I felt so sick. And it would easily throw me into a traumatic memory. So here are some journal entries from around that time, just to kind of highlight, the exact state of mind and the experience, and also kind of showcase the inspiration for this song. I feel as though I'm dragging a mountain through my daily life, a mountain of grief, sadness, depression, shame, guilt, terror, rage, anger, hatred, fear, stress, confusion, a tangled web of darkness. My past is a spider spinning this web, and I can't make it stop. As I sit with these memories and try to uncover more that I might have missed, or even just try to unravel what and why this happened, I feel like I'm being tangled deeper in this web, wrapping tightly around me, sinking me deeper into a mire, pulling me under. I just went out, and I know I will get out. I will get healing. I won't let this control me forever. I have to sit with this and be here so I know how it feels, because someday understanding how this feels will help me with other people. I have been tired, sad, and depressed. My soul feels sad and tired. I hadn't been able to pinpoint the exact reason, and now I have. I'm grieving the stolen childhood I can never get back. The innocent little girl who was so happy and cute and giggly who changed. The grim reaper of innocence pillaged and plundered the crucial years of my childhood over and over. It wasn't an isolated event. 3, multiple times. While my brain was developing, I was being wired not to trust anyone. I couldn't trust anyone. There was no one to protect me. I think she might have yogurt in her hair.
Yeah, I can see that.
You want to play in the playroom? As I was contemplating how my innocence was lost as a child, and I'll never get to see that, a thought popped into my head about how God restored everything to Job twice over. He didn't give him double the children because they were already in heaven. However, God has given us 2 little girls who we can raise the right way and protect their innocence and give them the childhood I never got. Reagan told me I can watch it, nurture it, foster it, and observe. I get to be a part of it. So although I lost mine, I can give it to them. The pure gift that was ripped from my tiny toddler hands has been bestowed to me from God to gift to my children. All of them. It's another entry. For so long, all of this was locked, sealed away in the black vault. When I would think about Christ cleaning out my heart, this image would flash through my mind and I would scurry past it, not ready to unseal it, not knowing how to open it. I didn't want to open it, but it's been there, dwelling in the bottom of my soul, keeping me from being completely free and healed and pure. Purity isn't about emotional and sexual pureness. It is about being pure completely from the inside out. There's been an evil trapped inside of me, pinning me down, holding me back, tripping me up from being truly successful, healthy, and free. But God can make all things new. He will. He has promised me this. That is the one phrase I keep hearing repeated in my head whenever I pray about the lost childhood. I will make all things new. I want to experience joy like I have never have before. I haven't truly been joyful, like in every cell in my body full of joy. My emotions, the positive ones, have always been muted. I've always dreamed of overflowing with joy and infecting others with it and blessing them with it, and I'm so close. There is light at the end of this tunnel, and his name is Jesus. So in the middle of all this, the one question was, isn't God supposed to heal? Like, in my quest to be free of it, I didn't just want to deal with it, and I'd been told that you'd have to you just deal with it the rest of your life. And I didn't accept that. And it was in reading the story Unbroken, which is about Louis Zamperini, a World War II fighter pilot who survived extreme torture in a Japanese concentration camp. And his story is he went through all of this, became an alcoholic afterward, and suffered from severe PTSD. And then he met God, came to Christ, and was completely healed like that of everything. And I remember holding on to that story and thinking, why can't I have this too? If God did this for him, why can't God do it for me? Why can't I be healed? And I desperately wanted that because through all of this, I didn't feel myself. I was a shell of myself, and at one point I didn't even know who I was. And I was kind of jealous because Reagan would just take a day and write a song, or an hour, and he's like, here's what I made. And I'm like, I can't do that. I don't even have the brain power or the energy to be creative. And usually you think, tortured soul, that usually leads to creativity, but mine was completely stifled. Like it was as things would come up, I would have bursts of creativity here and there, even in things that I wasn't normally creative in, like painting. I started painting, and I found that I really enjoyed it and was kind of good at it. And I started working on music a little bit more, and as things began to unravel, I felt like things were beginning to loosen up. But I still felt like it wasn't completely flowing out of me, and I just couldn't be completely free. I'd known who I was in my family's singing band, but who was I in, the Andromeda Coast band? Like, where did I fit? Like, this was a different style. It was a completely different style from what I was raised in, which is, I loved the style. I couldn't make the connection, part of because I was raised in a cult that believed this kind of music was evil. So rewiring my brain, to think it's okay and good to work on this kind of music, even just music with drums, was bad. So that's been a journey in and of itself. So true freedom began in July 2022, when I realized I did not have the true gospel. I didn't actually have a true relationship with Christ, and I was not his child. And through realizing I needed to fully repent, I was also still dealing with the pain of these memories and what had been done with me, and still just not able to just fully let it go. And I found that in baptism, and fully understanding what baptism was. And I came up out of the water just completely I just this full of this indescribable joy that I had never felt before. And that kind of launched my fully stepping into the person that I knew I was supposed to be. Slowly along the way, we've been unearthing Andromeda Coast even more, and I think we're fully jumping in. So for me, when I read the lyrics and heard the song that Reagan had written, I actually cried. And I was just kind of blown away that he was able to sufficiently sum up how it felt, that pain as a little child, and being able to communicate that very succinctly in lyrics. Even though it wasn't his experience, it was mine. But he's a very empathetic person. Has listened. He's been my talk therapy. So he's understood and heard the pain and knows the story in and out, inside and out of, you know, a narcissistic parent, narcissistic abuse, and all the abuse that I've been through. And it's just, I love this song. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, I need to sing on this song. I need to sing this song. I don't know. I instantly connected with the song, and I think it's probably one of my favorites. I think all of our songs are my favorite, but this one is kind of, I don't know, a little special because it, you know, tells my story, or some of my story.
And I gotta get my
A little bit of this,
lyrics
a little
up.
bit of that.